Then I watched the SpongeBob movie 2025, Plankton the Movie. You know why I did fighting? To preserve the status quo. Then why would I be interested in your franchise? You don't want to tell stories because stories are about change. And you want to tell a story, why do you don't want stories? It's just nonsense. Then there was the Brutalists. Again, 2025. Brutalist is a specific architecture style. It's very weird and robust and very aggressive style. And it is about the architect who invented this, came up with this style. The problem is, for the setup of the movie is that he is dissiding from Hungary. But from whom? I wish to know, because there was different regimes and people ran away from all of them. Does he run away from the Nazis? Or does he run away from the communists? Because it defines the story. It is a necessary information, and they don't tell you. On the other hand, we don't really get much of the Brutalist buildings. Actually, really not known of them. So it's not really about... If you went to the airing of this thing, you won't get what you set in for. At least I set in for the buildings, and I didn't get it. Then there is the problem that what this movie is about. That he's an architect, that he's an immigrant to the USA, or that he's gay, or that he had a bunch of relationships with women. So maybe this is a conservative propaganda that you, even if you are gay, you should try to live like a hetero person. And I don't know. And again, there are like 3, 4, maybe 5 different themes in the movie, and it never comes together. So what's the story this movie wishes to tell us? I don't know. So I won't remember this movie because it's not defined. Then finally there was The Electric State. People made a whole bunch of reviews. You see, there is Millie Bobby Brown. She looks like she will get to the career of Hermione from Harry Potter, so she will be mostly forgotten. In this, the first thing you see her do is a face with which she very much looks like Bella Ramsey. You know, the child hero lord whatever from Game of Thrones, who made a career from that one scene she had. And she is now in The Last of Us and all kind of interesting projects. But if you want her, why don't you put her in here? Or why do you let Millie Bobby Brown make that face where she's just... MBB has a pretty face in Stranger Things, her appearances. Bella Ramsey has an interesting face. If you won't call her kinda ugly. So it's why, oh, what's directing we are doing here? But that's not the main point I want to talk about it, because I don't want to spend much time of this, because the plot is nonsense. Absolutely nonsense if you think 5 seconds about it. And I tell you why. This is the first biggest plot hole in the whole thing. So there is this big, everyone knows from the trailer, human and robot war. We spent a couple of minutes at the beginning of the movie setting up this conflict or whatever. It takes like half a minute. Whatever. Okay. Humans fighting this chappy-like robot. I expected more. If you want the aesthetics, check up Sucker Punch. That has similar looking robots and aesthetics, and that's much cooler movie because it goes all out for the action. This just adapts a novel and not very inspired way. So, point is, they defined what a robot is, how it differs from a human, why it is not human, because they have an off switch. How is there a war between robots and humans and robots? Why are the humans waging a war against robots when the robots are defined by they have an off switch? Why are the robots not switched off? I could go on that. What's the idea for the future from the humans? This bald guy who looks like the Amazon leader Bezos. Your essential component is a human. And if that human dies, your system collapses, is terminated. So, as I said, nonsense. So instead, I brought you a novel. The first novel, which I didn't just read for the school, I literally stole it from my father's bookshelf, because I was not allowed to touch these. It's from Norton, who was a pretty good sci-fi writer, titled Starman's Son. It's a very thin book, and this was very normal back in when this was written. It was written in the 50s, but it was printed in the 90s, and it only has like 200 pages. The very last page is 202. Again, I have a new phone, so I'm sorry if the resolution is lacking. I will try next time using natural light again. So, what's this book about? It is about a Conan style guy, but he's not actually Conan. Of course he's running around, but this is a post-apocalyptic world, so it's not a fantasy world, not entirely. The society collapsed, there is mutation everywhere, and we don't really know how many people survived, but it's very racially built. That there is this village we know we don't know how big this village is. Maybe it's a city, so we don't know the population number. And there is this guy, our protagonist, who has white hair. That's a mutation. The book is not about racial segregation. It exists, and the protagonist is exiled or self-exiled before things get worse. He travels to discover the world because they live a very isolated life, being afraid of all kinds of mutant and natural threats. So he travels to something like ruined New York or something like that, like I Am Legend, and he discovers the old tech. I don't mean real tech. There is a whole chapter, for example, about him finding colored pencils, maybe chalks. So it's very basic level stuff, but he's very happy about it. And he meets two factions here. One is actually just one person from another distant village city. He's a black or Creole guy. They manage to communicate eventually and they help each other survive. It's not like lizard people running around like in Conan. It's just a regular environmental hazard and some animal threats, finding shelter from cold and night and rain. And there's other third faction, There is the Starman's faction and there is the Creole guys faction. But there is a third section who are real mutants. They actually rat people like, AD&D's Cravens. And they are expansionist, aggressive, and, they kill first, talk later, or, don't talk at all. They do have language and all that, but they are no longer human language. They are too different in bone structure and all that. And they start to hunt our protagonist and the other, his friend. And this is a wonderfully simple story. What they have to do is stop these people, while they also have to survive naturally. But they have to stop these people because otherwise they will find Starman's settlement, and that will be bad news. Bad news for everybody. Because even they are like 15 or 25 people, they would be too much of a military force. And even if they don't attack the settlement directly, they will report its existence to the main force. So that's a situation. And yes, that's the other point. They have to go home and warn the people that there is this mutant group who are like the mutants from the fairy tales. They are the monster mutants. Those really exist. They really exist out there, and they are organizing. And that's the point. Humanity, the remaining of the real humans, the actual civilized people who don't turn into nomadic scavenger people, beings, half animal, they must build up diplomatic relations. They must reconnect, because this nationalist ideology just won't work out sooner or later. In this instance, sooner. The barbarians are storming the gates. and the only chance to survival is to cooperate.